we could celebrate the night.
Girl, it has been, and it's funny, I was checking on Reedy Blair Entertainment Media, reedyblairmedia.com. The last time you and I did an interview, it was in 2017.
Yeah.
And it was at the Urban Music Awards on the red carpet. That was the last time you and I physically saw each other, spoke with each other. And, of course, I had a great time talking to you then. But, wow, the things that I've been seeing that you've been up to since then to now has been incredible. You have made some incredible moves. And I got to say, first, congratulations on everything that you've been doing. We really got to get into a lot of stuff, but I have to ask you, though, apart from all the great professional things that you've been doing, how was 2020 for you dealing with COVID-19 and all the other crazy things that we've been seeing on social media and experiencing, from what's been going on in the U.S. election to the new terms Kevin and Karen's, people know what they are, to Black Lives Matter? I mean, what did you think about 2020 and all these things that we're dealing with, and of course COVID-19?
It was a crazy year, and part of the reason I haven't even seen you since 2017 is because I moved to LA. So what I learned so much this year about what it means and what the differences are between living in Canada and the U.S. And starting with the whole quarantine, it was very confusing at first. It was like one day people were starting to talk about a potential virus, and then the next day people are kind of avoiding certain businesses, and then the next day it all shuts down. It was so shocking how it all happened, and then nobody really knew what was going on and how it was going to be handled. And as the weeks kind of poured on, the frustration just grew. And then come to the end of May, George Floyd is murdered, and then protests erupt. So now, at least in LA, we were not just on quarantine, we were on curfew. And we would get, alerts to our phones at like 3 o'clock saying, okay, curfew's at 8 o'clock. And then I remember this one day it was at 8 o'clock, and then they moved it up to 7, then they moved it up to like 6 or 5 or something, because of the protests and the riots and everything. So it was a crazy, crazy time, especially. I would say the heightened tensions were kind of around end of May, June. And then all this Black Lives Matter stuff started, and the rallies and the marches. And it was incredible to see, but it was also a very risky time because a lot of people that wanted to be a part of these protests couldn't because of quarantine and safety issues with, who you might be around, older people or immunocompromised people. So there was just a lot of tension, a lot of anger. Gyms are closed. The normal outlets that people use to vent their frustrations are closed. And so the energy and the environment around here got so tense and so intense. And I started talking to a lot of my friends about their experiences with police officers, and I personally got so upset. Like, I've not been that angry in my life. There was a good 1 month period where I was so on edge, and I could see it. Like, I'm self-aware enough to know that, like, this isn't me, but then having certain conversations, and I was talking to a promoter, and he wanted me to do a virtual show, and I was like, I'm only going to do it if I can do it as a Black Lives Matter show. So this was in June. We did a Facebook Live concert, and I sang probably about 13 to 15 songs celebrating Black artists. And then in between each song, I did some research, and I shared a story, like maybe 1 or 2 minutes of a story of different, mostly males, but Black people that have suffered at the hands of police injustice, just to bring about awareness. And so that gave me a bit of a sense of purpose and a bit of relief that I was part of the solution. And then I continued the series on my IGTV Live. And so now we're thinking, the summer is coming and everything's opening up. People are starting to feel a bit more optimistic. Outdoor dining is happening. People are starting to socialize a little bit more, get used to the masks. And then all this election drama starts. And it's crazy. Like, it's really crazy. I thought California and LA was much more of a liberal environment, which it is, but then you still see these pockets of so much racism and the polarization. So it's been a very tense very intense year. And I know a lot of people that have not dealt with it very well and are struggling. And I know a lot of people that have tried to make the best of it. And it's been apparent that kind of having each other's back, like reaching out to people you love and checking on people and kind of going through this together was the most important thing. Unfortunately, my uncle passed away earlier on from COVID in April. And, you know, platforms like Zoom and Facebook Live and Instagram and stuff, it's just, at least as an artist and as a creative, you still can have online outlets to be creative and spread your message. And then, you know, platforms like Zoom and stuff have been able to keep families together. So, in all, I would say it's been very intense, tense, frustrating. It's been a roller coaster for sure. But there's been some really good things that have come out of it, especially in the realm of creativity, and I think people understanding and realizing what's really important.
I want to get into the important part, but I want to say my condolences in you losing your uncle.
Thank you.
Does it frustrate you knowing that losing a family member and then seeing some of these things on social media about people not wanting to wear masks or the conspiracy theories? I mean, what do you think about that when you know having a loss in your family?
Yeah, and it's been an interesting time when you start to see everybody's opinions kind of come out, even people around you. It definitely is frustrating when I see people protesting for masks above protesting for Black Lives Matter. And that happened around the country in different parts of it. And so to me, that's kind of, that was frustrating in itself. Like even taking my uncle out of it, it's like you're going to protest on wearing a mask that's going to save people, but you're not willing to speak out on people being murdered unjustly and unfairly. Like, you know, that part itself. Now, yes, when it comes to my uncle, I think some of these conspiracy theories and like, I don't want to pretend like I know everything. I do believe that there's a lot that as a population, we are being guided towards not knowing, or like, what I mean is like we're being fed a lot of propaganda from all different sides. And that's just something that I believe comes with government. Like nobody's fully transparent. So I'm open to the idea that there might be other things going on. However, what I do know is that my uncle went from being perfectly healthy to gone within 72 hours, like a very short period of time. So I have heard some friends or some people bring up the fact that, oh, it's all in your head. It doesn't even exist. And I'm like, that doesn't really sit well with me. And you're welcome to have your own opinion, but trying to push that on somebody that just lost somebody is not the most sensitive thing to do. So it's really brought out people's personalities and their kind of true selves as to like, how are you dealing and disseminating your particular beliefs? Are you being respectful and cool about it, or are you kind of going to the other extreme and turning it into its own little movement? So yeah, I would say it's frustrating, and as much as some people have realized what matters during this time, some people have taken it to the whole other direction. I don't know if it's really like that up in Canada. It'd be interesting to know, but here, for sure, the system is different.
Yes, I will say that it is definitely, everything that you said is actually happening here in Canada and your hometown to Toronto too. So it's very frustrating. But again, my condolences. And I hope people listen to all the words that you've just said, because it just frustrates me when I hear people trying to say this isn't real. And anyway,
and I do understand that if somebody hasn't come across anybody that has had the virus or passed away from the virus, it's easier to be very light about it, very nonchalant. But I think it's important for people that have lost somebody to educate their friends and their family to know that, like, no, this is real. Like, you know, my uncle didn't have any other conditions that made him more susceptible or anything like that. And it was literally alive to gone in 72 hours. And when I've told some of my friends that, they're like, oh, a lot of them, it hits differently. And they're like, okay, I just didn't know anybody that had it. And I'm hearing all these things. And so it's easy to get swayed if you haven't personally experienced it. So I would say anybody who has, like, you don't say it out of wanting anybody to feel bad for you or anything like that. You just say it as a point of education, because that's how we learn, is through other people's stories. So I try to have as much compassion as I can for for people who haven't personally experienced it and have those kind of views. But I do think we all need to be more open with each other and sharing. Amen
to everything you just said. And it does sound like that you've had such a, I can just say as well, what an experience that you've been going through. But, the other experience that you've also gone through is something that you mentioned, because you said you're now based in L.A. I was used to seeing you here in Toronto. How did you make such a brave move in going from Toronto to L.A.?
So when I had seen you last, I was kind of courting LA at the time. My brother lives here, and so I was kind of going back and forth to see what my next moves were. And there was a couple of times I came and I just met some really great people, and the weather, obviously. I'm the kind of girl that needs sunshine as much as possible. So to see that there was an abundance of sunshine here, and my brother lives by the water, and meeting the creatives that are here, it just felt like the right next step for me. It felt like it was a city that fostered a lot of balance. People go hiking and they go camping and they surf, and so they're really into nature like I am. But then there's also such a really rich creative hub here. I was even shocked at how amazing the live music scene was here. I thought that it wouldn't compare to New York, but it absolutely does. And some of the best musicians and best writers and creatives are here, and it's really stimulating. Most of them are super nice, very generous, very willing to learn and teach and mentor. And I just kind of fell in love, and then I started applying for my visa, and I was like, you know what? If I get my visa, if it gets approved, then I know I'm meant to be here. And if it doesn't, then I'll stay in Toronto and keep having fun there and creating there. But my visa, fortunately, got approved, and so I made the move. And I basically spent, so I got my visa in 2018, and then I was back and forth because I still was on a tour in Canada. And then, so I'd say I kind of officially moved in 2019. And so for about a good year, I was kind of going to all these little live music venues and meeting as many people as I could and network and just learning and trying to find myself. Because if you remember, when I saw you last, I was rebranding and trying to figure out more of a new sound and more of an authentic version of myself. And at that time, I kind of landed on something I knew was going to be temporary, but I felt like moving to LA would help me find really who and how I wanted to move forward. And that has all kind of come together in the last few months. But it was so fun studying here. Like the performers are amazing. Like just at a regular kind of LA little bar, the quality of the music is just insane, and that was so appealing to me.
Two questions. One, how are you handling those hills? And do you wear your heels when you're walking up those hills? Because those hills could be steep. And two, how's one of my favorite areas, the Fashion District?
You mean the hills like when we go hiking?
No, I'm talking about just the streets. I mean, you could be walking on the street and suddenly there's a steep hill that you're kind of walking on, and you're like, oh, my goodness. I know I found that whenever I was in L.A., it's just like out of nowhere, you're walking on the street, and then you're going down, and then you're really going down. I don't know how women handle it with their heels. And like I said, the Fashion District, I love the Fashion District.
You know, I haven't been in the Fashion District or downtown too much. That was kind of on my to-do list for this year. But then when everything closed, I obviously, there's so much I haven't been able to experience because everything closed this year. Yeah, those heels can be kind of tricky. I have to say I stopped wearing heels. Maybe moving here, like I've worn them once in a while, but that's the other thing about LA is the the glam factor is kind of toned down. Like LA dressed up is still pretty casual. And except for certain nights, like if you're going to the Grammys or something like that, then of course.
Yes.
And then for those nights, ideally you're doing like door to door Uber or limo or whatever. But I've luckily not, I think because I was kind of studying people, I wasn't necessarily even trying to stand out too much. So I was probably just wearing my flats and some, cool casual clothing. But I luckily have not experienced I might have once or twice, but I don't remember like anything crazy about being on a hill with heels. But I do know that some of the hills around the city you're talking about, and that is definitely different from Canada. And it's like the sidewalks here, they're not as well maintained as in Canada because there's so many trees and the roots just grow out of the sidewalks, and it's so cool, but it can be a little bumpy.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right about that. That's why for folks who look at the, what do they call it again with the stars?
Hollywood Boulevard?
Yes, exactly. Sometimes when they look at the older areas, they're not as well maintained as you would want to be. So don't be surprised if you look down and you're going, oh, my God, what the hell happened here? But here's something that's really interesting for me, though. So what the hell is happening here is me sitting down in the evening and watching a certain program and then going, wait a minute, it's a singing program, and wait a second, there's somebody on what the hell? Who is this person? Wait a minute, I know who this person is. What is she doing on this show, and what the hell is going on here? I want you to explain to the folks, please, how I saw you on television, and not just on television, but one of the most popular shows on television right now today.
So that was a really cool experience, and I couldn't even say anything about it until it aired. So there's a new show on Fox called I Can See Your Voice, and it plays after The Masked Singer. It's from the creators of The Masked Singer, and Kim Jong is the amazing host. And the way the show works is that every episode there are 6 secret voices, and so you don't know how many of those people can actually sing, and how many of them are just pretending to be singers. And then there's one contestant and 5 or 6 celebrity judges, I think it's 5, that are helping the contestant figure out who's a good singer and who's not. So I'd come across this audition in the summer, and I just sent a few videos. They asked me to send a few videos of me singing, and so I did, and then went through kind of the whole casting process, and they're like, okay, cool, you'll be perfect. And we had to pick a character of something in our lives. And so my brother owns a yoga studio here, so I would volunteer teaching yoga several times a week, and I become, a bit of a yogi. So they were like, that's perfect. That's going to be your character. So in my episode, which was episode 3, there were 6 of us, and only 2 of us could sing. And the celebrity judges were Nicole Scherzinger, Russell Peters, who I got really excited to see because I've never met him, but I was like, Canadian from Toronto and
we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that in a moment, but continue, please.
Okay. And then there was DeRay Davis, Adrian Hobson, and Cheryl Hines, and it was just a really interesting experience because everybody's trying to figure out if you can sing or not without hearing you sing. So the first thing was they're judging you based on a particular pose with a microphone and your intro bio. And they're trying to figure out if that seems plausible. And then the next thing they're judging you on is a lip sync challenge. So there's one song, and then we do 3 singers at a time, and you lip sync either to your own voice or to a session singer, but you're lip syncing, so they can't hear you. And they're trying to figure out whether they think that your voice matches your movement and how you look and everything. So, and then there's multiple challenges that go on. So in our episode, the first guy that got voted off, he was a bad singer. So the contestant wins $10,000 if you eliminate a bad singer. And then the second guy was a good singer, and she eliminated him. And then with me, she was the most confused because they all agreed that I had some kind of stage presence, meaning I was some kind of entertainer. Nicole kept saying, like, maybe she's a dancer. D-Ray was on my side the whole time. He's like, I think she can sing. Even Russell was like, for the most part, was, I think she can sing. I just kind of feel it. And then the ladies were not as convinced. So then they voted me off, and then we sing an elimination song, and then they're like, oh my God, because then she didn't win her money. So it was a fun experience. But like I said, I couldn't say anything until after it aired. So most of my family and friends had no idea until they're watching. And then they're all like, oh my God, how could you not tell us that you were on something so big? But it was fun. It was really fun. It would have been nice if we were able to be on like more than one episode just because of how fun it was. But it's definitely an experience I won't forget. I was really grateful to do that. And Ken was so cool. You know, his personality and his energy is so cool.
So as you mentioned, Russell Peters was one of the, we call them judges? What do we call them? Celebrity, what would we call them?
Celebrity, I think they were called celebrity detectives.
Detectives. Okay, so he's one of the celebrity detectives. How did he not know you? Because I know for a fact that you two have been in the same room several times. Maybe not have met.
Have we?
Have been. Yes, I've been in the rooms when you guys have been in rooms. So how is it that he didn't know who you were? Because when I saw it, my first instinct was, I remember saying, no, they got it. He's got to know who she is.
Yeah, no. I personally had never met him. I'd watched a comedy show of his once when I was in college, and that's it. We never met, and I think we even know several mutual people, but I personally never met him, and he would have had to they would have showed him the pictures of all the secret voices to make sure that he didn't know anybody, and so I guess, but even I spoke to him a little bit after and introduced myself, and you know, he didn't have any recognition of me, so he didn't know who I was. He does now, but he didn't at the time.
That is incredible. Wow. Because I would have sworn, I did. I was like, no, he knows who she is. Wow.
I was trying to send especially him and the contestants subliminal messages. If you watch the episode, if anybody watched the episode again, I was like really trying my mind to tell them like, I'm a good singer, pick me. No, my telepathic skills are lacking severely.
No, definitely not lacking, because look what it brought you. And so once this happened, what was the plan for you? Because when you have this kind of exposure, you got to keep the momentum going. So what were the plans? And also, did you start performing? Because I think I saw some Instagram performances with one of the other contestants.
Yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned a plan, because, you know, me coming here, my plan was really to, you know, network as much as possible, find my sound, work with as many, you know, producers and writers, and just see kind of where I fit in, see if I could find like a team or like a creative family here. And obviously 2020 and the pandemic kind of put a bit of a hold on that, but I've met some amazing musicians and producers here that I've worked with or started songs with, and I even got like a residency at a local kind of LA hotspot bar where there was a lot of live music, and so once a month I had Firefly Tuesdays, and so I would say I was making progress, but I hadn't fully figured out what the new branding was going to be, what my sound was going to be. I was trying to get it all polished and as perfect as possible before releasing a new song. And then when I found out I was going to be on the show, it served as a kind of as a goal point of like, okay, if you're going to be on this show and you're going to have this amount of exposure, you better have a song out and figure out your branding and do a new photo shoot and have it all together. So that was kind of phase one of my plan when I finally did the filming for the show, which was back in August. The only thing is they didn't tell us when our episode was going to air, because I thought it wasn't going to air until 2021. And then all of a sudden they were like, oh, I think we're going to start showing the episodes in September. And then our episode was supposed to be like end of November, and then they pulled it up to October. So phase one was just redoing my website, doing a new photo shoot, getting a song done and ready to release on Spotify, rebranding. So that was the plan up until the episode. And then after the episode, the plan was, like you said, was just to continue the momentum, so continue putting out more content on social media. I've been mostly focusing on Instagram, starting to get into TikTok. But I just started doing more collaborations, and like you said, one of them was with Mario Bryant, who was the other good singer in our episode. And so the reason we did Black Velvet is because if whoever basically the contestant picked last for the episode would have gotten to sing Black Velvet with Nicole Scherzinger. And both of us obviously wanted to do that. I love Black Velvet, and I was so excited. And that's why I really wanted to win, because I wanted to sing it with Nicole. And so we decided that we would just do our own duet version of it, because we didn't get to sing it with her. And then so we put that out on YouTube. And so since then, phase 2 of my plan, which kind of started when the episode aired, I kind of made phase 2, which is I'm in the middle of right now, a 6-month thing, is try to put out 100 pieces of content, see what's sticking, see how people are reacting to different things that I'm doing, because I always have so many ideas. And you know me, I love to like blur the boundaries of artistic expression. I like to mix genres and languages and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to see what people were responding to. And then this whole Firefly world stuff that's been brewing in me, I would say for the last 7 years or so, I have to do something with that. So I'm very excited about doing the music alongside really pushing Firefly world this year. And that's kind of bring me into, we'll see where phase 2 ends up, and bring me into phase 3, and just continuing the momentum. There's really, the industry is so weird right now, because, you know, I don't know if people are still getting signed or you know, how the music industry is going to shift because of everything having changed with not being able to tour, and just the whole landscape is so different. It's really geared now towards as much online content as possible, and building your particular tribe, your authentic niche, and nurturing that. So that's kind of where I'm focusing right now, is seeing who out there would like to consume what I'm putting out, whether it be the positivity stuff with Firefly World, or the style of music that I'm doing. And you know, it's moving along, which is really cool to see. There's been some really cool new people I've met from them seeing me on the show, and are now participating in my weekly IGTV live episodes and stuff. So it's been a cool ride, I would have to say. But the show definitely served as like, okay, Farah, now you have to put this all together and put something out. I was definitely caught in a paralysis by analysis for a while.
So let's take a quick step back, because I want to make sure people know you have a new single out. What's the new single, and what's the single about?
So the new one that I just dropped on Friday, January 1st, is called Choosing Hope. And the story behind this is really cool. One of my best friends, his mom, over the last 10 years or so, has gone through 3 different types of life-threatening cancers. And she is one of the most resilient, strongest, inspiring women I've ever met. And then she wrote a book called Choosing Hope. At the time when she was going through her cancer, she had a very popular blog called I Will Survive, and she was just inspiring people with her story and her positive outlook and how vulnerable and honest she was being. And then she wrote a book, which actually got published earlier this year. And so I've always wanted to do something for her, but the stuff never really aligned, and I was busy with everything else. And then I think it was towards the end of August, she called me and was like, they're giving me a podcast to do, like a 6-week podcast, and they're asking about music, and I really wanted to get you involved. I was wondering if you would write me a theme song. You know, I just need 30 seconds to start the episode off, and maybe end it off, and, you know, keep the music, maybe a bit of lyrics, whatever. And it was perfect timing. I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, this is it. I'm like, I'm going to write you an entire song. Because I have the book, and I knew her story, and I've met her personally, and she's just been so inspiring for me. And at a time when, especially people in my family and community, weren't super encouraging about me pursuing music, as opposed to, you know, typical things like being a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. She was really one person that had told me very early on, she was like, Farah, I'm so proud of you for following your dreams and having the courage to do what you're doing, and don't ever stop. And I will never forget that day and what she gave me that day. Wow. And so this coming all the way around to me being able to give her something, I was like, there's certain projects I would love to be a part of before my time on Earth is over. And this is definitely one of them. Like, if I were to have not woken up the next day, or if she were to not woken up the next day, I would have really deeply regretted not doing this. I'm so happy that it came together at the right time.
And I choose hope. I've come this far, I wanna see what's next. I'm not letting go. If I don't wake up tomorrow, I got no regrets. So I choose hope. Count the blessings till my very last breath.
So I wrote the whole song called Choosing Hope kind of in September, and then I was looking for a producer to produce it. And I had done a project in the summer for a religious community, and the producer was amazing. So I reached out to him. I was like, would you be willing to produce this? I'm thinking like a world pop, kind of very inspiring sound. And he jumped right on it. Our deadline was like just 2 days to finish it, to send it to her so that she could use it for her podcast. So we finished it up, and she played it for her podcast. She said it went over really well. Her podcast was doing really well. And then, we were kind of talking about maybe putting a music video together for it. And I needed to release another single, because the single that I released at the time of the episode back in October was called Slow Burn. So I was like, maybe we can use Choosing Hope as my second single. And the ideas just kept flowing from there. So everybody was on board. And then I had an idea of, I was literally just in the shower, I had an idea of a challenge that we could do alongside the single to kind of shift the energy going into 2021. So the single dropped on Friday, and but tomorrow we are officially launching the Choosing Hope Challenge, which I'm sure you remember several years ago, the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I had that in my mind, but what the Choosing Hope Challenge is going to be is whoever is willing to do this makes a video, just a quick video talking about one thing that they're grateful for 2020 and one thing that they're hopeful for in 2021, and then nominate 3 of their friends or family to continue the challenge. And the reason we thought this would be important is because if you look around online, basically everybody's talking about how bad 2020 was, and like multiple obscenities 2020, like how frustrating it was. And I do believe it's important to vent out those frustrations in a constructive way. But there's also something to be said about shifting the mindset towards gratitude, because when your energy shifts into the realm of gratitude and joy and happiness, then life tends to bring you more things to be thankful for, right? So I wanted to do something that could help shift that mindset going into 2021, so people are not feeling depressed or frustrated or, apathetic. It's like, let's be hopeful. So it all just kind of came together. So I'm really actually very excited about it. It'll be my first kind of big project under my whole Firefly World thing. So I'm excited. The song came out on Friday. It's called Choosing Hope. It's now on all digital platforms. Her book is called Choosing Hope. It's available on Amazon, and I think it's on other platforms as well. And then tomorrow, Monday, January 4th, the Choosing Hope Challenge begins.
Okay, and how do we get involved with the challenge? Where do we go for all this?
So tomorrow I will be posting on my social media an information video on how everybody can do it, and then I'll be posting the example video, the start-off video. So whether you're nominated or not, you can just make your own video in the same style that we're doing it, and as long as you hashtag Choosing Hope Challenge, it'll all kind of be counted together, and then nominate 3 of your friends. And we just kind of keep it going like how the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge happened, and try to get as many people involved as possible. So the more people that are involved, the more the energy shift happens as a community and as a collective. So that's the goal. And it's just something cool I want to try, and we'll see how far it goes. It'll be exciting.
Social media is the place to go. Where do we follow you now?
So now you can find everything under @I am Farah Mitha. So that's FARAHMITHA. That's the name I'm going to go with from now on.
Fantastic. Well, I can always call you
over the last few years. But
I can always call you friend, so that's the name that I always
absolutely.
Thank you so much
Yes.
for doing this interview. Congratulations on everything that you've done. Thank you for being so open with everything that's happened to you throughout 2020. I'm crossing fingers that at some point in 2021 that we could actually meet, whether it be in Toronto or LA or wherever, and hopefully things will be safe. But I am just so happy with everything you're doing, and I'm just looking so forward to you conquering the world.
Thank you. I feel like I'm in a much more authentic and genuine space, and it's so nice to connect with people like you who are also so genuine and authentic in what you do and how you inspire us and encourage us and are there to help kind of bring out our messages, because I really miss people, like having people like you around. So I want to thank you for talking to me again and having this conversation. Like, it's always such a wonderful experience having an interview with you. So thank you.
Big love to you. Be safe. Definitely talk soon. And, of course, we'll be following each other on social media. Take care, and thanks again.
Sure. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Take care. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So I choose